Hi everyone, welcome. I'm here today with Shirley Waru, a beautiful, amazing woman who has been with us since the beginning. Her love for trees is profound, and she's here to share her perspective as a Māori woman who was drawn to this particular issue on Owairaka, but also at her own maunga, Ōrahuhu, correct? Mount Richmond?
Ōtahuhu, yes.
Shirley, why is this important to you?
Well, from a Māori perspective, my father taught us as we grew up that the environment was very, very important. And trees are part of our environment, so we have to look after them. And also, those trees are the homes to our kaitiaki, our birds. So that's why it's important to me. I have many other reasons, of course, but they're the main two.
So a reverence for life, huh?
Yes, it expands further than that. As far as the trees on our mountains are concerned, that we're going to have possibly deforested, because it's going to affect our various communities. And my community is a very poor community, so our parks and reserves are super important to us. Many of the people that live in Ōtahuhu do not have beaches, and probably many don't even have the money to go on a holiday. So places like Mount Richmond are where they go and get away. They have their picnics, they walk with their children or their dogs, or they play sport. But it's very important that we hang on to these spaces, and particularly the trees and the birds, because it's where we all get to go and connect with the environment every day.
So such a powerful point, Shirley, and one maybe that's less obvious in Owairaka, less obvious in Mount Albert, in terms of just the idea that this is the only place that's accessible for some populations and some communities. That's a perspective I haven't heard before, and I think it's really important to go a little deeper into that. So when we look at the TMA's plans, there's this future projection of a beautiful native landscape, which, if that were achievable, given the current climate, and I mean the actual climate, not just a political climate, that would be one thing. But the means and ways in which this plan is being carried out leaves me very frightened that we're going to be left with a desert of stumps.
Oh, absolutely, Samar. We've already had a number of trees chopped down nearly 2 years ago now. They were olive trees. And our moorpork lived in those trees. The moorpork have gone now because their habitat was destroyed. And we are left at the moment with a barren cliff face. Everything's dead on it, and not one tree has been planted since they chopped them down. So I don't know what's happened to the planting, but I certainly know that the moorpork have gone. And I did actually, the day that they started putting the fencing up, to keep the public out of that area before they took the trees down, I actually rang a member of the Tupuna Māori Authority and told him that moorpork lived in those trees. And I didn't know at the time, but had I pushed it, I could have probably stopped those trees from being chopped down, because they weren't allowed to chop trees down if they had native birds nesting in them.
Wow. Do you think they knew that?
I'm sure they knew that. When I very first met a group of people at the mountain a couple of years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, they'd just put a sign up at the gate to tell us that we couldn't walk our dogs off leash anymore. And it was a council sign, so I had a conversation with them about, well, the sign doesn't really mean a lot to me because this is Māori land now, and that's a council sign. And I also told them that Māori don't leave signs at the gate, that normally Māori will have a hui and they'll talk to everybody, they'll make sure that everyone's happy before they go ahead with a change of plan. And I did speak to a member of the group that day who was tangata whenua. He said that he was tangata whenua. And he said to me, you know that we're not actually kaitiaki, you know that the kaitiaki is the maunga. And I said, yes, and the trees and the birds and all the insects and all the other life forms that are here on the maunga. He didn't reply. And I always thought that was quite odd until, you know, I found out what the game plan was and that all the trees were going to be chopped down. Mm. So if he had have told me that day that they were going to be coming and chopping all of our exotic trees down, I would have said to him, well, that's not Māori tikanga either.
Wow. Shirley, I know you've done a lot of research into this, but what is the future projection for what's going to happen on your maunga? What's the plan?
If their plan goes ahead or our plan?
Well, both.
Well, the Tupuna Maunga Authority have put in an application for resource consent to remove 443 exotic trees from the maunga, which is 75% of our tree canopy, and it will leave us with 150 native trees. So I managed to send comments through to the Auckland Council, to the Resource Consent Office, while that application was in its final phase. And I had to make my comments relevant to, you know, the park. So I sent them a lot of video footage and photographs of our native birds in the exotic trees. We have the grey heron that comes every year to nest, and it's quite a sight actually. And they choose the pine trees or the Moreton Bay fig trees to nest. So I was able to send them a photo of the nest of one of the herons, and there was also a broken shell at the base of the pine tree, and it was a heron eggshell. So I'm not sure whether it had been thrown out of the nest after the chick was born or where it came from. And I sent them photos of kereru, wood pigeon, and gum trees, fantails, you know, and other exotic trees. We also have quite a few seasonal birds. We have paradise ducks, which are native to New Zealand. So I sent, you know, photographs of that. And they decided that my comments were valid, and they were sent on to the Deputy Commissioner, who handles the final phase of the resource consent process, which, by the way, was non-notifiable. So wow. In all this time, with all these changes at our park, we call it our park and our mountain, not one sign has gone up at the park to let the people know that use it, what the plan is.
Wow.
And also, the day I text and questioned about the moorpork's habitat being chopped down, I also told him that I'd arrived at the park a couple of days earlier, and it was 9:30 in the morning, Simar, and there was the moorpork calling in a tree as I came in. And of course, you don't hear moorpork at 9:30 in the morning. So I guess it was trying to tell me that something bad was going to happen, and it sure was.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, definitely resonate with that experience. I felt the trees at Oairaka screaming a couple of days before I found out what was happening. I felt literally being pulled from the center of my belly up 2 days in a row. And usually I would drive up, but it was like walk, so you'll see the signs. And
Yes.
it's a very similar experience. And so I'm so sorry they had to lose that habitat. So tell me about your plan.
Yeah. Well, we've been waiting for the basically when the resource consent was put on hold for Munga Richmond. I wanted to respect the process and wait to see what the outcome was. And apparently everything had been put on hold with all the other maunga because of the judicial review that was going to happen to do with all Wairaka. Unfortunately, all the maunga are considered sort of separate entities for some reason, but basically it's on hold until I think that judicial review is over, and then we'll have to wait and see what the response is from Tupuna Maunga Authority. But if the judicial review is lost, we will occupy the mountain like Ona the Maunga has at Oairaka. We have to, because otherwise we're going to have no birds left. And I don't understand where they're going to go or where they're supposed to go.
Wow.
Apparently, our area lost more tree canopy than any other area in Auckland last year. I haven't seen those statistics with my own eyes, but apparently they do like a Google photograph of all the different areas to see what's lost. And we're just losing so many trees here. I think it's happening all over Auckland. Mm-hmm. And it seems to all be in the name of car parks and cycleways and widening roads, and all these things are being put in place, and they're sacrificing our environment and our trees to do it.
Thank you, Shirley. I have one last question. And, and we've talked about this many times, you and I, in different settings. And, one of the criticisms we get for our organization, Honor the Maunga, is that we're racist white supremacists. And I'm consistently online going, hey guys, I'm not white. And despite all the support, especially from Poroto and other people, it doesn't seem to enter the public sphere that this is a diverse group of human beings, including Māori, who care about what happens to this place. This isn't a race issue.
No, it's not a race issue. I'm a member of Honor the Maunga, and I came across the very first weekend that your group came together, and we'd already lost our trees at Mount Richmond, and we just didn't have the courage to say no. So they moved from our park to Mangere, and they took all the trees from there. And then they got to Oairaka, and you guys said no. So I just thought, why couldn't we have done that? You know, been that strong. But Anna and all your other members have, you know, made it possible for all of us now to put our foot down and say, no, we're not going to let you do it because it doesn't make sense. You know, from a Māori perspective, I mean, I've grown up believing that we truly are the guardians of the forest and trees and birds and, you know, things like that. And we don't take things for no reason. You know, my father always said, no, when we fish, we just take what we need, and we always shared the catch, but we never take things that aren't necessary. And if you come to my mountain and you look at all these gorgeous old trees that are so tall, many are probably very old, and they're perfectly healthy. I need somebody to give me a reason.
Well, the reason that's being shared, sorry to interrupt you, honey. The reason that's being shared is that it's a decolonization process. But from what you've said, is that it would actually hit the most vulnerable populations, of which a large percentage is Indigenous, the hardest.
Yes. In my community, we're predominantly Māori and Pacifica. So, yes, it just doesn't make sense, Emma. I don't get it. So until someone can make me get it, I'm just going to follow the path that I'm following now. And if anyone comes to chop our trees down, I might end up with my first arrest in all my life.
Or not.
I hope not. But yeah, no, they're worth fighting for. It's a ridiculous idea to come and chop all of our trees up in one fell swoop. We've gone through the park. We've looked at how the natives are self-propagating, and they've chosen the exotics that stand next to them to self-seed their babies and to be their nursery until they grow. So tupuna maunga authority, well, when the blanket plan for all of the volcanic cones was being put together, arborists suggested to them that there was another option apart from just free felling, and that was to keep the exotics and use them as a nursery. So
amazing.
That was included in my comments that went to the resource consent office at the Auckland Council. It's a shame I actually haven't got that in front of me, because I probably missed out quite a few important things that managed to at least stall the process to this point in time.
I mean, if they were recommended that, then the natural question, and we don't have to say it here, but we can simply ask it to our audience. If you were recommended that an alternative to creating a thriving native habitat would be to leave all the exotics in place to act as nurseries, why would you choose the other option? That would cost thousands of dollars an hour to extract and kill 2,000 or more trees with countless lives that depend on them. I don't think you or I need to say anything. Just let people think about why that's the option that was chosen.
It's a good question.
I love you.
And it would be nice to have an answer. Love you too, Sama.
I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your fighting spirit and what you teach me.
Thank you so much. I look forward to catching up again.
Thank you for your time, and this has been really powerful. I really hope it lands in the best way for people. Thank you, Shirley.
Awesome.